All right. Hello to everyone here. Thank you guys so much for joining us here at Keystone for our sessions. My name is Craig Moore. I am the not only just the founder of Black Excellence KC, but also the director for Venture for America. And I wanted to bring this conversation really based around VFA and the things that we've done, because I don't think that I've honestly have had just a clear explanation of what VFA is. And I think that it's just I went on a small little listening tour just recently, although VFA has been in Kansas City since about 2017, there's still a little bit of confusion about who we are, what we do, and how do we actually show that we have impact in some of our emerging cities. So just wanted to utilize this time and this opportunity in partnership with Keystone just to kind of present to you all what VFA is, what my current role is, and how I would like for you all to engage with me and bringing some exceptional talent to Kansas City. So just a little bit about Venture for America. The goal for VFA, or the birth of VFA, was to be able to support emerging cities. And emerging cities are not your coastal cities like your Silicon Valley, your New York, or any of those other spaces, but those like a Kansas City, like a Tulsa, like a San Antonio, who don't really have access to that natural talent that knows about being in a startup, how that high growth startup really works. And so being able to implant that talent into these spaces to be able to help these startup communities truly grow. But in that, I feel like in that motion of doing that, I think one quote that Kevin says when he talks about innovation districts is that oftentimes when you're creating that innovation density, it creates that that income segregation, right? And most of the time through VFA in earlier years, our talent was very one-sided that we brought in. We really targeted Ivy Leagues at first, and over the last couple of years, especially under our new leadership, we're really taking a pivot to really expand out where we truly recruit our talent. And to really not only have a focus to bring fellows who's going to come in and create jobs, but also those who are going to change the landscape of what we see entrepreneurial ecosystem actually be. And I think that comes with actually implementing diverse talent into each one of these spaces. And so as we kind of expanded out past the Ivy Leagues, gone more into HBCUs, gone more into those tier 1 and tier 2 schools, I think that has definitely shown a larger impact in how we move. But then it also allows these ecosystems, as they're budding, as they're growing, to ensure that they're doing that with an inclusive mindset. And so, we are on the mission to support the growth of diverse ecosystems across American cities by just developing this entrepreneurial talent and just providing them access through our programs that we have. So what exactly do we do? So VFA is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. We scour the nation to be able to find that top tier talent who has the entrepreneurial mindset. What we like to say is, can you build a plane while still flying it? And we really test them through our selection process to identify if they have those skills. Once they do identify that they have those skills through our selection process, we then go and we match them with jobs through our platform for them to actually be paired with. From there, we don't do the matching themselves. It's more so of just like an exclusive website that they can go to. It's like our own internal LinkedIn. They go in and they pitch for those jobs. Once they pitch for those jobs, they then go through that regular hiring process of that startup, which sometimes includes a fly out to that city so they can experience the city. But it's ultimately make sure that company is identifying a fellow who will fit the needs of their growth for the startup. So once they choose their company, they then spend the next 2 years within the fellowship as VFA partners with the company to ensure that this fellow has a holistic approach or a holistic support in their journey throughout the 2 years. So not only are they working their job, but they're meeting with a person like me, a community director, to engage them into the ecosystem, push them for more leadership opportunities within the ecosystem, and then really get them involved so that they can really exercise their skill set for the ecosystem that they're connected with to actually grow. And then from there, they actually launch their careers. A lot of our fellows stay within the cities that they have. That 2-year fellowship is not a restriction on the job that they have. The fellows, I mean, that's their job, right? Once they get into the city, they're an adult. They can make the decisions that they can make. But a lot of them do choose to stay within that company to help it grow. I think one story that I like to tell about a VFA fellow who is a VFA fellow, but he is actually from Kansas City is Chad Feather. Chad Feather was a part of our fellowship within I believe the second year of VFA being in Kansas City. And he was able to kind of move around the ecosystem where he eventually landed at Doppler and started off as a business analyst and is now the chief operating officer of that organization. And so the talent that we're bringing, again, is not your normal talent. I believe that through our selection process, the way that we select our fellows, the rubric that we've created, we're in a sense bringing you a fellow who has just a little bit more than just a college degree, but they have that background in the startup spaces to where they can be a true impact for the positions that you bring them into. And so just kind of tell you a little bit more about who we attract and where we attract them from. 91% of our fellows have already either created a startup, worked in a startup, or been a part of a small business development. We've reached over 178 schools to attract this talent or to go to recruit this talent. But I think the biggest one is that a lot of people think that a lot of the fellows who come through our fellowship, they're fresh out of college, so they're going directly into a job. Well, it actually shows that 52% of our fellows actually have already worked within a job before. So they have that lived experience. They have that little bit of growth that they need in that learning curve that they need to be an adult. But then they also have the support of somebody like myself and the national team who will help them along the way with that learning curve so that they can actually be a beneficial part in the ecosystem along with the companies that they work for. And so we're currently across 13 different cities. Kansas City, I believe, was like the 10th city. But like I said, we focus on these emerging spaces because we feel like these are the spaces that truly need the type of talent that we're able to curate. But then at the same time, we're able to these fellows are also those who are trying to come in and change culture and be the leaders for these ecosystems as they grow. Our founders, have nothing but great things to rave about the fellowship. I would say locally, we've had Novel Growth be one of our regular founders that have hired fellows. They've hired fellows on a regular basis over the last few years. We also have fellows who landed in different VC roles in Kansas City. So they work for 5Ms. They work for Novel Growth, Fulcrum Capital, just to name a couple of them, and even Startland News. And I really feel like the benefit of being able to have a fellow is not just with the skill set that they bring, but the community that they have behind them. As you see behind the slide before here, there's over 1,500 fellows have already come through the program. And so as you're going through a pain point and the things that you're going through that fellow might incur, there's a quick little Slack channel that they can go into and talk to all 1,500 of those fellows that will help them identify ways to kind of go over that hump and then help you push your company to the next level as well. As we are, integrating our fellows into these systems, it's not just about having great talent, but it's also about understanding how we can diversify the perspective when it comes to actual capital. And so by doing that, by having these fellows in these spaces, we're able to kind of really defer away from what the landscape is telling us how capital is being dispersed. And so with VFA, we've already have invested $3.1 million into our fellows that we have who actually started companies. And it's really broken out really diversely. And we hope that us being into these spaces, we can be just a good example on how to truly diversify this capital and then put it in the right hands to be able to grow these ecosystems across the nation. And so this is just a few of the fellow founded companies. Of the 140 fellow founded companies have come out of the fellowship since then. Again, this is more than just about bringing in the talent, but how do we mobilize and support these fellows with actually becoming founders themselves? To date, with all the 140 companies, these fellows themselves have been in a range over $750 million across each fellowship, across each city. And so I just kind of want to go a little bit more into where we are today. And so our fellows find that the biggest value of being a part of VFA is the community that we have. They have access to capital, they get access to mentors, accelerator programs, and people like you within these spaces. And so how can we not only do that for our fellows, but do that for the ecosystems across the board? And so just last year, we actually launched a website called Connect. And Connect is a subscription-based website to where not only our fellows, but the ecosystem can have access to all the ins and outs of what's happening within the cities that we serve in. And so you'll not only be able to find great talent, but then you'll have access to our alumni job board as well. So that's those more tenured fellows who have already gone through the fellowship and probably have grown to larger companies. But then you also get access to our resource hubs. So our resource hubs are just, how do I continue to grow as a startup who is getting this talent in? What are the best practices for me to build my HR department? What are the best practices for me to continue to attract and retain youthful talent? But then also you get an inside peek into what's happening into each city. So what is being funded in Philadelphia? What is not being funded in San Antonio? If I'm thinking about growing and scaling, I, as a founder, will feel like VFA is a great tool to have, because I'll be able to have that inside track along with some great talent that's going to be in those spaces for me to actually grow. And so when you think about companies like Bungie, who has taken advantage of us, I would say Bungie is about 3 or 4 of the businesses that 3 or 4 of the cities that we're actually in. And so they have been able to really hire a fellow for each one of those spaces and see growth happen for them across the board. And so, yeah, that's just kind of me kind of going through some of the other features that we have on the Connect platform, like our events calendar. If you want to be in tune with all the things that are happening with VFA, that's a great space for you. The City Hub spaces is what I was telling you, that outside window of what's happening into the spaces. But we also just kind of identified our top Connect industries that our fellows actually land in. So technology, healthcare, nonprofit, e-commerce, and energy is just it's just those top 5. And then where do our fellows really land at? I would say that we have the most technical base, but these are more of your front end players. So those who serve in the marketing, communication, sales, project development are the majority of the fellows that we have. But when we do get those tech heavy fellows, I will say they are the pick of the litter when it comes to the Connect process itself. And so just kind of want to give you guys just a quick little video just about VFA, just kind of accumulate things, and then I'll open it up to any questions that you guys might have.
Entrepreneurship is an idea. It was born out of a need, a hunger to drive change. Entrepreneurs drive economic prosperity in America. They build opportunities and create jobs, products, and services that solve problems. But entrepreneurs just getting their start need coaching, connections, and capital to turn their idea into a tangible, venture. And startups build better products and deliver better services as a result of diverse talent. Our charge is to foster the entrepreneurs that America needs. We are Venture for America, a nonprofit and national community focused on shape our country for the decades to come. Each has its own opportunities, communities, and culture, yet all can be joined by our shared purpose and mission. America needs entrepreneurs, visionaries who address the challenges of our time and create opportunities for the future. Are you ready to make an impact? Become a fellow, join as a company partner, or make a gift to support today.
All right, there you go.
Any questions for Craig? Yes.
Access to capital is critical.
Yeah.
I self-funded mine, so it's very, very difficult when you do it that way. What is the way that you guys provide that capital? Does it come with strings attached? Are they selling a portion of their company to these people who are providing money, or is Venture for America supplying the capital through fundraising and then providing it to the fellows? Like what does that look like?
So we have a evergreen fund that we raise for year round. Our fellows then go through, they have a couple of different accelerator programs of validation challenges that they go through. And then from there, the winner of those challenges or the pitch competition of that, the culminating pitch competition of that accelerator program, we then distribute the funds to them through there. Look, we've had some really great board of directors who have some really great connections across the nation that kind of helps that space thrive for us. But then it's also about being able to put our fellows in positions to be able to pitch and gain the capital through those connections as well. So yes, we do, be a part of that first round seed investment for them to where we do have a small percentage in those companies. But it's also training them and preparing them to be able to pitch for the capital that most of the time in any other avenues they wouldn't be able to have access to.
Other questions? I thought I saw another hand somewhere.
With Venture for America, what do you think for, I guess, going forward and seeing how, like you said, you guys are trying to build that pipeline for innovation? What do you think, if you were able to make specific changes that you would do to fast track that acceleration and things like that you think are stifling?
Just this year, I was appointed two different areas for Venture for America, which is the fellow experience and ecosystem development. And for me, I really want to lean on, for the ecosystem development, it's really about leaning on the development of Connect. I think Connect really provides a unique opportunity for an exclusive community to kind of come together and really help each other grow, to really take the collaborative approach of not only just what is my city doing and how can I grow in my city, but what are these neighboring cities doing as well that I can be able to pull from and grab from. And so to be able to do that, it takes some processes. It takes some good onboarding strategies to make sure that we have the right resources available. And so that's one thing that I'm working on right now. And then the fellow experience itself, being able to continue on that collaborative space, have intentional collisions with other organizations is something that I'm passionate about. Just recently had a conversation with Pan and Launch Code about, for those fellows who are in Kansas City who don't actually make it to that culminating fellowship itself, how can we send them to Launch Code to be able to gain more skills, or even vice versa when we have company partners who we really can't fulfill those positions through our own fellowship. How can we lean on Launch Code or lean on the brand lab to be able to help support that? So then it's more so of, again, the development of that ecosystem itself, and not just a self-serving organization. And so being able to be in those spaces to where I can enhance that fellow experience, not only just from them becoming founders or leaders, but from the early beginning of those applicants who don't actually make it, I feel like really helps us kind of dig into that vision and mission that we've came out with in the last year. Hope that answers your question. Yep.
Hey, Craig. So one of the questions that was asked earlier of Pan, and similar question to you, what typifies a successful partner company, or what are those placements that have proven most impactful for the companies that they've been put in?
I think it all comes down to one, company culture, right? It's one thing for us to get them into the positions for them to work for you, but that retention piece truly relies on the culture that you have inside that company. And so, are you able to create a culture to where, I mean, these fellows are coming in ready to do it all, right? Like we train them on, you might be applying for this one position, but we know in a startup you're going to wear multiple hats. So how can you be active? How can you be agile? How can you do multiple projects at one time? And so if you are that company that's in that stage to where that fellow will be constantly active and be able to really show and prove the impact that they can really have, to me, that's a perfect space. But I mean, I think that when it comes to industry or when it comes to positions, I don't really feel like it matters, right? I really feel like do you believe in the mission of bringing this talent into our city? And do you want to see them grow and thrive? And do they have that proximity around you to be able to have the resources and to identify, or not identify, but to have opportunities to learn and grow? Because I will say a lot of them do want to come into this space to be founders. They want to learn from the founders. They want to learn from the beginning teams of these startups on what to do and what not to do. A lot of them are already starting on their startups when they are in that space. And so can you provide an opportunity for them to continue to grow on their projects that they're doing, but then still be impactful in the spaces that you have? But then we also have opportunities like just recently where, we're engaging in corporate innovation. And so what does that look like for a corporation's innovation department to have a fellow? Are they going to be able to thrive? Which I will say is probably a little bit less risky than any of these other spaces, because you have that corporate capital behind you that can give a fellow full benefits, can help them grow. And so it's really about the day-to-day, creating that culture and ensuring that fellow feels like that they have what they need to be able to take it to the next level.
All right, I'm gonna ask my question now. So Pan got up and talked about her primary, on the demand side, her primary, clients or preferred clients are probably larger companies because of the scale needed to, fill jobs, fill classes, do those types of things. For you guys, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Like startups are the target market, but you just mentioned corporate innovation. And as you think about Launch Code pivoting from fellowship to ecosystem, what role do you think that entrepreneurial mindset and taking more of these venture fellows and putting them into, maybe larger players in an ecosystem, what should that do? Or is that one of the things that we might start to see Launch Code change, is trying to place more fellows and grow the fellowship like in a market in Kansas City through maybe those larger employer type of relationships as well?
You're saying like where do I see those venture fellows playing in that ecosystem?
Yeah.
So I feel like that, one, I feel like the fellows that we bring on through Venture for America are a true reflection of the generations of that time. And so if you can be able to have somebody come into your corporation already and somewhat have some leadership skills and have a leadership role, understands what it takes to build community, to make sure that they have the empathy to make sure that their voice is not the only voice heard. In these newer generations, I feel like that's a plus. And so where our fellows come into that corporate innovation space is not only do they get to, really take a corporate idea or a product from idea on a piece of paper to actually fruition, but then they already are coming in to where when they're meeting with a Launch Code participant, that this is the community that I'm used to having. Right. When they go to training camp, when our fellows go to training camp, they're working on our 5 creeds. They are creating the community. They are building impact into these different spaces. And so to be able to come from such a high scale type of training camp and then place into a corporate space to where there will be other like-minded individuals who might not have had the opportunity as they had to be in that space and be accepting of that. I think that's a really good opportunity for growth and development for both organizations. And so, yeah.
Kansas City compared to other VFA cities in terms of number of fellows. What should we see? Not necessarily looking for a comparison, because I know we probably don't have as many as some, and we probably have more than a few others, right? But like, should we in Kansas City consider our aspirational target? Like, what's the most a city has, and are we just scratching the surface in terms of how many fellows, and how does Kansas City go about getting more fellows? Is it just purely just having more companies sign up?
So Kansas City currently averages about 5 fellows coming to us a year. When you think of a large group of fellows, so nationally we'll probably recruit about 175 fellows. Places like Detroit, Philadelphia, Miami are at the top of everybody's list because those are the places that they know about. Those are the places that they've seen or probably even traveled to. And I would say for them, they average anywhere between 13 to maybe 20 fellows a year. And so what I feel like the disconnect has been over the last 2 years is that there hasn't been a true community director that is from Kansas City, knows the ecosystem, so that when the fellows land here, they know how to navigate them and be able to provide them that holistic support that a lot of these other cities have been able to do. And so that has been my job for the last year. And I feel like I've been able to kind of really curate the right partners so that our fellows feel welcome, right? I mean, even from the beginning stages, we were able to garner relationships with Team KC of the Area Development Council, Pipeline, and Made in KC to send recruitment boxes to every fellow who said that they wanted to come to Kansas City. And it was just like a little thing of barbecue sauce, a KC mug, and some chocolates from Andre's. But that little bit kind of gave them some insight into Kansas City actually cares. They want me to be here. Gave them a little bit more research. They started coming to a lot more of my virtual events, which then allowed them to start being a part of, to see the opportunities that were here. We were able to place fellows at Canby's. We were able to place fellows at Community America, placing fellows even remotely who didn't want to live in the other space, but they want to come to Kansas City and live out of here. And so I think it's just the awareness piece and being able to be visible during these times that the fellows are there, but then also answering Craig's calls. Oftentimes our fellows, they come into the city for their interviews, and that's the opportunity for Kansas City to really warm them up. And so I oftentimes call on many people to meet us for dinner. Can we come and visit your space? Is there a connection that this fellow can possibly have through you while they're here, so they can really get that understanding of what Kansas City can truly provide for them as they are essentially moving their lives here from college into Kansas City. So those are the things that I feel like we just got to continue to do well to be able to strengthen that awareness. But then I also think the retention piece too is right. Like how I know oftentimes Kansas City, when it comes to outsiders, we're like a little apprehensive on who this person is and what are they doing. But I think through this doorway of VFA, these are fellows who are really wanting to come in. Like I have a fellow who had a government job in Detroit, I believe, as an engineer, and decided to leave his position to go to VFA so that he can work in an emerging city and be a true impact. And so when you have people who have that mindset, who wants to come into these spaces, it's imperative that we nurture their stay here. It's imperative that we ensure that this is the right choice for you to have. And he's still here to this day. So I really appreciate Kansas City stepping up to do that.
If you're a university student that's looking to be a part of the fellowship, when and how do you apply?
So we have 5 deadlines that start during quarter 4 of every year. I would say every month we have a new deadline. So we're approaching our last deadline now, which is on April the 12th. And so they can go on to VFA, venture4america.org, click become a fellow, and kind of start that application process there. Tips that I always give is, always show that there's some space, that you've been in some spaces as a leader. Can you quantify the impact that you've had in that space? Can you showcase that you have been a part of groups, and what is the impact that you had in that group, and what is the impact that that group has had on you? And then also, can you be agile and inclusive, right? Just to kind of give you a little a peek of what that process looks like. So after they submit that application, it goes against a rubric, and that's kind of where we choose for you to go to the next level, which is a one-on-one video interview with a person like myself or anyone else that's a part of the national staff. From there, they go against a rubric through an array of questions. And then if they're selected from there, then they're selected to go through what we call selection day. And selection day is a long day on Zoom, to where you are in a room with about 4 of your peers. And we take you through about 3 different what we call exercises that reflect the startup experience. So whether that's the malwire, where you all are a part of a company that has had a attack on your customer base, and which customer do you select to save first, basically, and how do you tell everybody, all your other customers, your plan of attack to ensure that you're going to secure their information. And so it kind of tests their morality, but then all within this time of 15 minutes, one, they have to come together to figure out what their solution is. Then they have to pick who their presenter is, and then they have to prepare their presentation all within 15 minutes. From there, they present to a VFA facilitator staff, but then also 3 judges from the ecosystems around our 13 cities. And so those are the type of situations that we walk them through to really see how they are working in these groups. And then after those, 2 or 3 hours of selection day, they do another one-on-one interview with the facilitators, to where we just kind of ask questions that the judges had from those activities. Questions like, we've seen that you're a little bit quiet on this activity. What is it that made you want to take a back seat, and how did you see your role play out in the overall aspects of the pitch? And so if they are able to, in a sense, kind of come to a head into what their contribution is and what they were able to receive from any of those instances throughout that process, then more than likely they'll become a VFA fellow and be welcomed into the fellowship. And so that's the way that we actually bring in our regional students to come into the fellows.
Pretty rigorous process, so people should be wanting to hire them because you've already done all the interviews, right?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, we did all the work, but there's another opportunity, right? You can check us. You can check our work in the sense to where you can then kind of have your own hiring process, make sure that they meet your standards, but then also understand that VFA is here to help these fellows out with that learning curve that they're walking into. And so if they are in that job and you feel like there's a piece in there that's just not quite hitting right, you can call me and just say, hey, Craig, what are some opportunities that we can help work with this fellow to help them develop to the skills that I need, because we're in a pivotal moment. And so that's kind of where I go out to work, and I can call Launch Code, or I can find some mentors or find some people in the community that will help them develop those skills, so then they can be able to be the best employee that they can be for those 2 years.
Speaking of calling you, if you're a company in Kansas City that thinks you might want to take on a VFA employee, how do they do that? They reach out to you?
They need to reach out to me.
And where would they find you, Craig?
They will find me here at Keystone almost every day and every night. No, you can email me at craig@venture4america.org. Or if you or you can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook at Craig_MKC. But it's a unique process. The subscription model really fits how many fellows you think you're gonna actually hire and the types of fellows that you want to hire. And so the more fellows that you want to hire, the more value that you have that you'll find in these packages. I think the great thing in this year that we've done that we haven't done in years before is that usually you can only hire within the 3-month season that we had. But this year, once Connect opens, it will never close again. So you'll be able to go onto the platform through your subscription to hire as many fellows as you want throughout the year. But then I think the really great part of that is, as I mentioned before, is our alumni job board. These are alumni who have been through the process. We have over 100 alumni on the platform right now who are looking for jobs. These can be your next CTOs. These can be your next project managers in your spaces that kind of help you grow. And not only do they have the experience of themselves coming to this space, but they have the experience of the entire 1,500 plus fellowship behind them as well.
Awesome, man.
Anybody else?
All right, thanks, man.
Well, thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Yep.